Abortion is a barbaric practice, said one of Trump's recent judicial nominees. Bold move. But what does that actually mean for abortion rights in America? Today on Trumpology AI, we're doing something fresh. First, we'll have ChatGPT fact-check the latest developments in Trump's judicial nominations and how they impact abortion access. Then, in Part 2, we'll ask the AI to predict what these lifetime judges might do and how that could reshape reproductive rights for decades. No political spin, just cold, hard analysis. If you like smart, AI-driven breakdowns, hit that like button and subscribe now so you don't miss what's coming next. Gather all the latest info related to Trump's judicial appointments and their impact on abortion rights, so you're fully up to date. And then I'll start asking my questions. Don't write anything yet. Just let me know when you're ready. Be clear, straightforward, totally unbiased. Call a spade a spade. No spin, no fluff, no sugarcoating, no links, no headlines, no headers. And always give your own take on whatever I ask. Now, I want you to analyze everything related to Donald Trump in the case of his judicial appointments and their long-term effect on abortion rights, and fact-check of claims about his judicial record and abortion stance. Is there anything that could actually land him in hot water or not? Predict on future legal impact. I want you to make an educated guess based on everything you know. Be as detailed as possible, around 1,000 words, your thoughts, your analysis, your honest take, no headers. Short answer up front. Trump's judicial appointments already reshaped the legal terrain on abortion and, unless voters or future presidents quickly reverse course, will keep doing so for decades. The Supreme Court shift that produced Dobbs was decisive. The much larger floor of Trump-appointed appeals and district judges is doing the slow work of narrowing abortion access, especially on medication, funding, and procedural fronts. I'll be blunt. That's not accidental or merely political theater. It's a coherent, long-game strategy to bury policy change in lifetime judgeships where it's harder to undo. Facts you should anchor to. Trump appointed 3 justices to the Supreme Court, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Barrett, whose votes were central to overturning Roe and Dobbs. That single outcome immediately returned abortion law to the states and removed a federal constitutional protection. More broadly, the Trump presidency confirmed well over 200 Article III judges, flipping the balance on several federal appeals courts and stacking lower courts with conservative jurists who now hear the day-to-day fights over access. The scale matters. These lifetime appointments outlast any presidency and change how cases get decided and which cases are even allowed to proceed. What the evidence of record shows about the appointments themselves and abortion. Recent reporting and reviews find that a notable share of Trump's later nominees have records of defending state abortion restrictions, working with anti-abortion groups, or taking positions in litigation aimed at curbing medication abortion and clinic operations. That matters because most abortion litigation now plays out in district and circuit courts, not just the Supreme Court, and those lower court rulings often determine access in practice while cases wend toward the high court. In short, Supreme Court changes were the headline. The lower court bench is the engine. Fact checks and claims about Trump's role and rhetoric. Trump frequently boasts that he ended Roe and has made broad claims about legal consensus that are false. Independent fact-checkers have flagged several of his statements, for example, his claim that all legal scholars wanted Roe ended, as demonstrably incorrect. His public posture on abortion has been politically flexible. He's alternated between promising national restrictions and framing the issue as a states matter, while his judicial strategy has consistently targeted the courts as the vehicle for long-term change. That combination, ambiguous public messaging, explicit promises to appoint conservative judges, and a concrete record of appointments, is the real story. Could anything in the appointments themselves land him in hot water, legally? Short answer, very unlikely, based on what's publicly known. Nominating judges and pushing for confirmation is a constitutional power. Politics, pressure, and patronage are messy but not illegal per se. To create criminal exposure, you'd need evidence of bribery, explicit quid pro quo tied to a judicial act, or some form of illegal interference in a pending case that goes beyond political speech and ordinary lobbying. No credible public evidence has emerged proving such illegal conduct tied to Trump's selection of judges. That doesn't mean ethical concerns aren't real. Critics point to the revolving door between advocacy groups, donors, and certain nominees, and to omissions or misstatements in confirmation hearings. But those are political and ethical problems, not proving criminal acts. My reading, the appointments are politically toxic to opponents and legally defensible as a use of presidential authority. How this will play out legally over the next years, my educated guess. Expect a two-track dynamic. First, immediate incremental attrition of access. Conservative district judges and increasingly conservative circuit panels will uphold state restrictions, grant preliminary injunctions against access, especially for medication abortion, and interpret federal statutes narrowly when plaintiffs seek broad remedies. Those rulings will create patchwork results across circuits and force repeated Supreme Court review, but in the meantime, they reduce practical access in affected states. Second, long-term entrenchment. Because judges are lifetime appointees, a conservative bench at the appeals level will be the gatekeeper for what gets to the Supreme Court and what legal theories gain traction. If the Supreme Court remains reliably conservative, new doctrinal rules limiting reproductive rights or limiting the availability of emergency or medication-based remedies will harden into precedent. That's not just theory. Case patterns in the last few years already track this path. Where legal and political friction could change the trajectory, the law isn't immutable. Congress, if politically willing, can change statutes. States can elect pro-choice governors and legislatures, and future presidents can nominate judges who reverse lower court trends. Litigation strategies also shift. For example, attacking restrictions on other constitutional or statutory grounds, equal protection, interstate commerce, FDA deference, and creative legal arguments can blunt some rulings. But none of that is fast. The realistic horizon is a decade-plus landscape in which the judiciary's composition will be one of the dominant determinants of abortion access in the United States. My clear take? The appointments were the leverage play. The Supreme Court win, Dobbs, was the headline coup. The hundreds of lower court appointments are the deep infrastructure that converts that coup into long-term policy reality. That is powerful, quiet, and durable, and precisely why the conversation about judicial appointments matters politically as much as, or more than, any single speech or executive order. If you care about preserving or restoring abortion access, the math is brutal. Court appointments matter enormously and take many years to reverse. If you asked whether Trump personally faces criminal exposure because of this strategy, again, improbable on current public evidence, the real consequence for him and his allies is political. This legacy will define election cycles, policy fights, and litigation for a generation. If you want, I can next lay out the most consequential lower court judges you should watch, map where medication abortion cases are moving, or fact-check specific claims or nominees you've heard about. Which do you want first? So what do you think? Is this the slow rolling of abortion rights, or just a legal sideshow? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell. Want me to fact-check Trump's next move on religious policies or executive power grabs? Just say the word and I'll have ChatGPT to dive right in.